Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production. Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 99, PlayBook versus iPad, Part 2. This podcast is sponsored by Gadget Freeway. Check out all of their gadgets and accessories over at gadgetfreeway.com, including the iPad pillow and the iPad shoulder bag, the case bag as I'd like to call it. It's on sale now, $10 off. And check all of their gear out at gadgetfreeway.com. I'd like to thank them once again for sponsoring and supporting this podcast. So for those that listened to the prior episode, you will know that this is the second part of a two-part live episode I did with John Finnan. Every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live show. It's just a live podcast that John and I get together to talk about the latest iPad news and have a focus topic. And this week, the focus topic is the BlackPad, the PlayBook. So part one was just the news and Apple TV discussions and some other topics of the week. But part two will focus primarily on the PlayBook. That's what this hour is mostly about. We've got our picks of the week at the end and some other tablet news in here, but mostly it's the PlayBook for this episode. For those that haven't been to the live show before, it is every Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just go to iPadPossibilities.com, and there's a live show link at the very bottom of that page. And if you could join us this Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's going to be a big one. We're getting a bunch of the old guys that were on the show before. Steve Bossador. I'm going to try to get Ryan back on. I think his schedule is clear for that. So lots of folks on this Sunday night, and it should be a great episode kicking off the next 100 shows here at the iPad Possibilities Podcast. So let's go back into the podcast for part two of the PlayBook versus the iPad. Anyways, let's get on to the main topic of today, and we're an hour into the show, I think, or 50 minutes. Anyways, it's one of those shows. Before we get to the BlackPad or the PlayBook, I just wanted to comment on the HP Slate demo. Did we talk about this yet? I'm not sure if we did.
I don't know if we did or not. I think we mentioned it in passing.
Yeah. Anyways, as far as competitors to the iPad, that's not really a competitor since it's not really released yet or going to be available anytime soon. HP demo, video, prototype, runs Windows 7 and has a Control-Alt-Delete button. Enough said, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and then, I had it in here, I guess Beta 2, was that released this week? That was a new release?
Yeah, I think it was released probably like last weekend.
Yeah.
So Apple seems to be conforming to their every 2 weeks a release of betas.
And I noticed it's got better multitasking visuals. I noticed it does a little sort of like Spaces on the Mac sort of interface there. The keyboard looks more, the graphics look better on it. And I also noticed Netflix is not working on the app. And there's a couple other just weird oddities with apps now. Have you noticed that at all?
Well, I had some oddity with apps under Beta 1. I'm actually seeing a little bit more stability under Beta 2.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any more app issues than I did under Beta 1. I actually saw less, but it's probably solely dependent upon which apps you're trying.
Case to case, yeah. I noticed Netflix wasn't working. It was kind of just a little offshoot with Netflix. When the app crashed.
I had run Netflix under Beta 1, but I haven't fired it up under Beta 2 here this week. So
okay, yeah, it ran great on Beta 1, and then Beta 2, it crashed when I was trying to play video, and it basically thought the video was still playing with Netflix, the service, the streaming and server and all that, and I tried it again and again, and after a couple times, I ran over I guess there's a 2 limit streaming per account limit.
Oh, and it wasn't closing out your streams.
So I called Netflix, and that's what they said it was, and they said just wait for 90 minutes and it'll clear it out or something. So if your app for Netflix crashes, don't try to play it again because you just did, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, let's get into the main focus topic of the week, and that's the BlackBerry PlayBook. And this is what many people think is in direct competition to the iPad. I'm not so sure it is. But let me just kind of go over their highlights there. You can interject as you need to, John. So these are let me just do their quotes of the tablet here. So the quotes here: flash-loving, app-rocking, fastest tablet, multi-processor. So that's their big points, I guess. So
yeah, and obviously they're trying to play on things that the iPad has been criticized about, and two, say that they're also incredibly fast, and because obviously most people who've experienced the iPad are amazed at the speed that it operates in and how responsive it is, and obviously anybody who's going to play in that game can't be seen as being slow and pokey.
Yeah. And the flash loving thing's kind of interesting. It runs the full 10.1 like you do on the desktop, evidently. And I've got to say, that's got to kill your battery life. It says it's the full version. It's not even optimized. I guess it's optimized, but I just know on a notebook computer that just drains your battery so fast.
Yeah, I haven't really certainly seen myself nor had an opportunity to really work with one of the phones that are running Flash now. So I don't know how well it's been recrafted for mobile devices. Maybe it has, but certainly until it's proven that it doesn't A, suck up battery, and B, suck up power.
Yeah.
Or as far as horsepower, we'll have to. The jury will still be out.
Yeah, and I think the way they advertise this isn't the mobile version that's been pushed out to Android. This is just the original Flash for like laptops. Just kind of.
So this is just a recompiled version of Flash 10. Well, that's interesting indeed.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. We'll see how it goes. I mean, a lot of people, that's why they don't like the iPad. I have many siblings that say, can't run Flash, I can't access this website. Life is over as I know it for buying an iPad.
Yeah.
So the next one, I'm kind of concerned here. App rocking. This is a brand new operating system with literally no developers that have coded for this platform before. How can they claim it's app rocking? And I'm kind of confused here. I know there's a development platform and they're going to push it.
So there's just one word for this, Tim. Marketing.
Yeah.
They have to say that. I mean, they can't come out and say, "Oh yeah, and by the way, it's brand new and really, we're going to have to build an app store from scratch. So we might deploy with, 50 apps or something. But you should really go here because we'll have the apps eventually."
I have to commend them for doing a brand new OS. That is something that's great. A Windows 7, it's not Windows 7. It's a brand new operating system for the tablet space. It's not the BlackBerry OS. It's the PlayBook OS, I think they're calling it. So,
well,
good.
I think they had to, and they could have tried to use the BlackBerry OS, but I don't think that they have the manpower maybe or the time to actually develop what they need to really deal with a much larger screen and a whole different kind of thing than the BlackBerry is.
Yeah, it would have been a mess. I mean, the iPhone OS, the iOS, it upscales really gracefully. It works well on the iPad. The BlackBerry OS, that's a device it's for texting. It's not a tablet OS. So they really had to do this. And I actually like their multitasking little interface. It looks like when you command tab on the Mac and it goes to the center of the screen, the apps that you are running, that's something that I think would have been better on the iPad where it's more Mac-like in that way. I think I like that,
Yeah, I kind of like that too. But so I think that they couldn't use their existing OS, and they really couldn't really use somebody else's OS. I think they had to really go with something different. They could have tried to use Android, but I think BlackBerry people who love BlackBerry love it for several reasons, and probably one of the underlying reasons is that BlackBerry is different than anything else. So BlackBerry is really known for its security, and I think they really felt like they had to do something that they couldn't be doing something that anybody else is doing.
Yeah. And I know other BlackBerry users, I really don't understand why they like it so much. Except for the corporate environment and all that. And the next one, their fastest tablet and multiprocessor claim here. So this one, it may be true, may not. It's a multiprocessor. It's like 2 different cores in there, which is interesting. I'm not sure how much you need that on a tablet. I think it'd probably speed things up, obviously. It's 1 gigahertz with 2 processors. So I'm not sure if that's 2 500 ones in there or what's going on there. And then also to note, this will probably be competing with iPad 2nd generation, not this one, because this won't ship until, January or February of next year. And iPad 2 will be rolling around March, April next year. So it's not really competition with this iPad.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they are putting this much effort into pre-announcing this. It seems, and I don't know this for fact, but it seems to me that this is a little outside the norm for BlackBerry or for RIM to be, putting out all this information this early on.
Right.
But it may be that they just feel like if they don't let people know that something is coming out from them, they're going to lose too many people to the iPad in the interim, because it's certainly not coming out next week. Right. They haven't announced pricing or anything yet. So
here's some thoughts as far as why they announced it this soon. So this was announced at a developer conference for BlackBerry, and so the first reason is they wanted to stop people from buying iPads this Christmas season if they wanted a BlackBerry tablet. They didn't want to have that happen. So the second reason is it is a brand new OS, brand new platform, and they're probably wanting people to get excited about this, to learn about this new operating system, and to have apps ready to go in that 2 or 3 or 4 months it takes to get this product to market. Do you think it's the whole developer scene that had this early announcement come out of it?
Well, that obviously has a lot to do with it, is to try to get developers to develop for it. But I would question whether they needed to
get that respec.
Yeah, I mean they've really specced it out, and they're really marketing. It's not like they just told developers and the press has picked up on it. I mean it's on their homepage.
Yep.
It's and they're all mock-ups. It's not like they're pictures of the actual devices.
All fake. It's all vaporware videos.
So they're marketing this today.
Yeah.
And they haven't announced. And I'm not trying to say that is incredibly unusual, but I'm just not aware that BlackBerry has done this far in advance of actually having product to ship.
Yeah.
Because have they announced or rumored at a actual date for this to come out? I didn't think they had.
I didn't think so. I think they said sometime.
No date.
Early quarter one, 2011 is what they said.
Okay.
Well, so that could be February. It could be January. I don't know.
It could be March.
It could be March. And they said
it could be more like April.
Yeah, and they said there's going to be the 3G and Wi-Fi, 3G and 4G units after the Wi-Fi ships. So that, just like the iPad, will take longer for those, evidently. So in the videos, it's kind of interesting. They're all mock-up, videos. They're not the actual device.
Right.
Evidently, they do have the actual device, and it was in like some sort of casing thing and held by the CEO. And I'm not sure if it actually was running anything or was all just a little sticker over it. But anyways, with that being said, I saw the little picture of it in the case and being held by the CEO. And it's 7 inches. And when I was looking at the CEO holding it, that form factor I still don't think is going to be a good one. I think 10 inches, you're going to be productive on it. You're going to be able to be productive on a tablet at 10 inches. At 7 inches, you're getting into the netbook territory where it's just not productive anymore. It may be a great entertainment device for videos and ebooks, but I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other, I'm kind of a vague fan of a slightly smaller device than the iPad because I think that it would be a little more portable and I would take it with me a little more often and not maybe find something to carry it in other than tucking it under my arm. But that being said, I wouldn't want to give up screen resolution. And so this is actually kind of interesting is that at 7 inches, they've gone this widescreen way, and they're 1024 by 600. So, they're really, in my mind, making it very much a media consumption device, recognizing this kind of more of a widescreen, HD kind of concept where the iPad is more the traditional, 8.5 by 11. It's not that size, but I mean that those kind of dimensions of our typical non-widescreen screens, and so I think it's definitely a different design philosophy, different design goals in doing that.
Yeah, and it is widescreen, right? That's what the dimensions really state there. I mean.
Yeah, I mean it's as opposed to 1024 by 768, it's 1024 by 600, so it's got the same width, but it's shorter, so it's you're gonna end up with more of an HD kind of feel to the screen.
And when the iPad initially shipped, people were very upset it wasn't widescreen, but as people used it more, they quickly saw why Apple did this, because apps are so much more useful in this kind of screen setting. If it was just widescreen, I don't think the apps would have taken off the way they did. It would have just been more of a video device.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Everybody who has an iPad, take it out, all right, and put it in front of you in landscape mode, and imagine taking off, maybe like a fifth of the screen, and now you have that much less to work with. Yeah. And that's what this tablet is. So,
yep, it's like
not impossible, but it's just a different design philosophy, I think, behind what the uses are really going to be for it.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, some other things about this tablet. It's got built-in micro USB connector. It's got wireless A, B, G, and N. I'm surprised that it still has A in here. I don't think any of Apple's stuff still carries that support. Or does it? I mean,
no, Apple hasn't really much embraced A, which is, in my opinion, a shame, because
is that used a bunch, or
it's not used very much, which is the sole reason why I think it would be great to have it in more things, because you're not competing with the Spectrum, and
is it Spectrum or range? Isn't that?
No, A is a different range. So A is a totally different and non-compatible range than B and G and N.
Okay.
Actually, I think N has a band that will overlap A, but
okay.
Traditionally,
I thought that was just some really old Wi-Fi thing that no one ever touched.
No, it was actually one of the first really high-speed Wi-Fi. So B came out, which was a certain spectrum and a lower speed. A came out actually around the same time. It was a different spectrum and a much faster speed. And then G came out, which gave B spectrum the speed of A, and then N came out. So, A is I have A in a few devices, and it's sometimes useful if you're getting a lot of interference on the other spectrum to jump over to A.
Yep. So, cool. And then it's thin. I mean, I looked at the pictures. The pictures, they're mock-up pictures. The PlayBook is thinner than the iPad. But the pictures make it look thicker. I think that's kind of a testament to Apple's design, that even though this device is a little bit thicker, it still looks thinner. Did you come across that when you looked at their photos or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's that optical illusion of the fact that the tablet is smaller. And so even though it's a little thinner, it's in comparison to its other dimensions, it looks thicker.
Right. I never thought about it like that.
I think when you hold one in each hand, you're going to notice that it's a little thinner, but it's not that much thinner that it's going to mean a whole lot. In fact, in some regards, I wonder if the BlackBerry is going to be so thin, what it's really made out of. Is it going to be as sturdy as the iPad? The iPad is a pretty darn sturdy device.
Yeah, you can drop it and it's all good.
Yeah,
depending where you drop it.
True. But I mean, even more importantly is, for a device that is as thin as it is, it doesn't flex,
right, and you don't want to karate chop it or something.
Yeah, you're not gonna break the glass because the device itself didn't support the glass correctly.
Right.
And you get a thinner thing, and I don't know what the BlackBerry case will be made out of, but it better be a pretty hefty, strong thing, and it probably won't be liquid metal.
Probably won't be, no. So the next one here, true multitasking, and this I have to think is a fail, right? So Windows Phone 7, I've heard John Gruber talk about, and he really loves it, which is something surprising to me. And it doesn't really multitask yet. And Windows Phone 7, they concentrate on what makes it great. So they left out multitasking for now. They'll be there next. But I think
sounds like they learned from Apple.
Yeah, exactly. So
they don't have copy and paste either.
Yeah, no copy paste, no multitasking. They are copying Apple pretty much. They're having the App Store type deal, and I think that's what they're really modeling here with this Windows Phone 7, except they're doing it on more devices. But with the multitasking stuff, I'm not sure if BlackBerry, with its brand new OS, can make it the fastest tablet in the world with multitasking thrown in there on version 1. Do you disagree?
Well, I think it really comes down to is multitasking worthwhile? I mean, true multitasking.
Well, I don't think any of these. I hate the word multitasking. I think it's backgrounding. I mean, until they run side-by-side apps.
Are they? I mean, if they say true multitasking, aren't they talking about side-by-side apps?
That would mean it to me.
Because suspend and resume has been around forever, and in fact, the first Mac OSs had this form of multitasking that suspended applications and only the foreground application giving the background application some bandwidth was allowed. And consequently, they got a lot of flack for that not being true multitasking, which is what supposedly Unix has had, which is that everything is preemptive multitasking. And if you've got preemptive multitasking and side-by-siding, which is what most users think of multitasking, then it's like, well, I still don't think that that's really good on a 7-inch screen.
Yeah.
I mean,
on a 10-inch screen, you could do some cool things with side-by-siding. You could have in vertical mode, the top portion be one app, the bottom portion be the other. Horizontal mode, you could have it the opposite, left and right. With 7 inches, you're out of space for that kind of stuff.
Well, and even with 10 inches, I mean, the whole philosophy here, and it's one that I've been working on an article on my blog that I haven't put up yet, but it is really, it's really one of focus. There's this whole counter revolution to this whole multitasking idea in industry that maybe you should single task and focus on what you're doing and get it done right. Yeah. And so that's one thing that we really get with the iPad, and even I love the ability to have multiple apps available to me, if we want to call that multitasking on
with
iPad.
4.2.
Yeah, with 4.2.
It still feels like you're running one app, even though you have Pandora in the background. You're still focused on one app.
Yeah, you're focused on one, and if you need to get information from one app to the other, it's very convenient to do it with this form of multitasking.
Yeah.
But yet, the whole idea is that I am focused on the task I'm doing and not needing to be distracted by Twitter going off and this going off and that going off and having opened up 12 windows on the screen and getting confused about which window I should be typing in. I mean, the thing is that it's I think really gone back to the fact that yes, there are some times where you need to have multiple apps open and you need to have them running by side, and that's all well and good. But that's not what most people need most of the time. It really isn't. They should be focused on one task and allowed to get that task complete and before moving on to another thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I'll get off my soapbox.
Good soapbox or whatever you want to call it, or rant. I agree with you. Yeah, so... the other specs of this new thing, this new black pad or PlayBook OS run black pad, is it's got a 3 megapixel HD forward-facing camera and a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera, and I think the iPad will have something similar when it comes out with version 2, so it'll compete right with the iPad 2 there, and I think on 7 inches, back-facing camera would be more useful than on the iPad with 10 inches. I'm not sure. Do you agree with that or not?
No, I think that a camera in a device like this is certainly useful for a lot of reasons. I think that, personally, I'm not happy with Apple's decision not to include a camera, either front or rear facing.
Yeah, I think a front should have been included in the original iPad because they knew FaceTime was coming out the iPhone 4. It would have made FaceTime that much more of a killer feature.
Right. Well, but then if you do a front-facing camera and you don't do a rear-facing camera, you're going to, piss off a bunch of people that now have the same issue of, I can't see the button to take a picture.
Things.
Yeah.
So I actually FaceTimed with a family member of mine who moved to a different city, and he's actually able to show me his new apartment with FaceTime on the iPod Touch and iPhone, and that was really very cool. But,
I know that Apple was trying to probably keep the cost down and get it out into people's hands. And, so I'm of the mind that, we will see a version 2 that will have cameras built in.
Yep, for sure.
So it's certainly a good feature. And I think after the flack that Apple received on not having it, I think anybody putting together a tablet today or a pad today is going to include it.
And it says Black Pad's doing video calling. And do you think it'll be Blackpad the Blackpad, or will Apple eventually open up FaceTime so Blackpads could, call iPads? Or how do you think they'll do this?
I would certainly appreciate Apple opening that up as soon as possible. They haven't really done much about opening up, but I think that that the Blackpad will really be leveraging off of some other technology, whether that's
Skype or something.
Skype or Adobe Connect or Citrix GoToMeeting or whatever it is. They're probably going to support one or multiples of those things first and foremost. That's not their core business. They're not going to recreate the wheel. They're going to use somebody else's stuff.
Yep. So the next thing here, codec support for superior media playback. I love their wording here. Like they're so incredible with their video capabilities.
Well, again,
sorry.
Yeah. Again, they're leveraging off the fact that Apple was fairly restrictive with what formats it would play, and now that they've allowed VLC to come out, that's no longer a problem since it's a free app and anybody can get it. And it's like, okay, well, big deal. Yeah, definitely. So, but from the basic specs out of the box, the iPad doesn't support a whole lot of these formats, and so they're going to play that marketing game there.
So 1080p HD video, H.264, MPEG-4, WMV, HDMI video output, which is kind of interesting. HDMI. Okay, so it's got micro HDMI on the device. It looks like.
Yep.
I'm thinking I think AirPlay is a better solution for this.
Well, it probably is. I think about the fact that I've used the video cable, the iPad hooked up to a TV.
Yep, I use it a lot actually, but I'll stop using when AirPlay comes out because it'll be more convenient.
Yeah, I mean that's fine and dandy, but now I have to, the cable's not that long unless I'm like sitting right next to the TV. I have to get up and change things on the iPad,
Yeah, unless it's a
and
2-hour movie, you're getting up a
yeah,
lot.
and even then you want to pause it for some reason, and you got to get up and pause it, right? And so
Exactly.
you're exactly right. AirPlay is gonna be the killer technology here, not having an HDMI connection here. So, but what's the easier one for a company like BlackBerry to implement? Well,
Oh yeah, definitely.
it's HDMI. So, and it's kind of in the same realm of the HDMI on the Evo phone, and I'm like, I'm gonna hook up my little phone to a TV,
And a lot of those
and then walk
BlackBerry and
across the
Android
room.
folks are just fanatic about HDMI support. It has to have HDMI support. They're so spec oriented that they don't see the big picture of just what do I need to do with this? Play video on TV? AirPlay.
Yeah, it's so amazing to me. If I've been able to put the video on my phone or my tablet, I've got many other ways of getting that to my TV. Yeah, if it'll eventually be the Apple TV for me, but it's a laptop I can hook up there if I wanted to. I've got other kinds of boxes hooked up. I could potentially stream it to my TiVo and replay it, or
Yep.
it's a bunch of ways of doing it that don't involve me taking my pad or my phone and putting it next to the TV with a little cable connected. I just
Yeah.
don't see that to be the future.
It's a very archaic way of doing it. It works great if you need to, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've been streaming Netflix and Air Video via iPod touches and iPads to TV sets, and it works great. But I'm looking for the AirPlay.
But it's not an innovation.
No, it's very
It's
much looking backwards.
it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, you provided the video output because you had to, but not in any way innovative.
Right. So let's move on to the kind of cool thing here. You can pair BlackBerry PlayBook with a BlackBerry smartphone via Bluetooth for access to push technology, email, calendar, BBM. I don't know what that means. TM. Tasks, documents, and more, as well as I believe data and all that kind of stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think BBM is BlackBerry Mail, which is slightly different than generic email.
Yeah, I don't know there. Thanks. That's good to know. So I think the data thing's pretty cool. It does kind of limit it to just BlackBerry users that this would mainly attract to, because I'd love to pair an iPhone to a BlackPad and stream. I'd have all my data there, right?
Yeah, but the key thing here is really it's BlackBerry security.
Yeah.
and it's using, like the current BlackBerry phone, it's using those BlackBerry servers to put your email through and have the security that they provide.
So one question, John. Sorry to interject. It says
problem.
secure Bluetooth. Now, I meet many geeks, and I'm not one of them that thinks Bluetooth is unsecure, but a lot of them say Bluetooth is a very hackable, insecure way of doing this kind of stuff. Is that true?
Well, certainly, Bluetooth is not designed like from the ground up to be, encrypted and secure. And so, they're doing something here where they're adding some encryption, probably layer 2 Bluetooth, that isn't there out of the box in the standard spec. So yeah, I mean, Bluetooth is a very, very unsecure method of communicating. I mean, you're not the stuff. If somebody had something to capture all the Bluetooth packets that are going across, they could pretty much tell what it was you were sending across.
Yeah.
So, but it's not meant for long range. So it's
Right.
like if you're more than 30 feet away, you're probably not going to get anything. So, that was the whole purpose. Was Bluetooth was not meant to be secure because it was not meant to travel very far.
Right.
And if somebody was snooping your stuff, why were they that close to you anyway? with the equipment to
Grab the
snoop it.
BlackBerry.
Yeah, really. So, but for something like this, I mean, that's security is what BlackBerry is playing up here in this whole thing, and they have to have that security on the Bluetooth connection as well.
Yeah. Now, how
So,
cool would it be if an iPhone in version 5 would be able to pair with an iPad, and you don't need the iPad syncing to iTunes anymore to do the basic things, such as email and all that kind of stuff, and contacts and all that to get that information. Instead, you could sync. The iPad could be the center. The iPhone could sync to it, and all that kind of stuff. You could get data from your iPhone. I think that'd be amazing.
yeah, I think it would be amazing too. And for those people concerned about security, well, maybe there would be the ability to enable security. The great thing about the iPhone and the iOS devices that are out there is that they could do this kind of communication over Wi-Fi, which can be very secure, and they also have the bandwidth to deal with the added, overhead that securing those connections take. Mm-hmm. Where Bluetooth is going to get pretty darn slow if you're doing it securely. So,
Right.
I don't see you getting a huge amount of throughput through this BlackBerry smartphone providing your internet access for this
Less than good
Black
Netflix streaming via Bluetooth.
Yeah, I don't see them doing a lot with that.
Yeah.
So
Good for email,
They'll be restricted, I'm sure, to Wi-Fi for any kind of application communication other than this email, calendaring
data
stuff.
Just pure data.
Yeah, any significant data stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's kind of wrap up the hardware. I know this is gonna be a long show. I apologize. So 1 gigahertz dual core processor. So the iPad's 1 gigahertz single core is. I mean, the OS matters a bunch, so they could have this spec. Is dual core at 1 gigahertz faster than a single core 1 gigahertz chip?
Well, it all depends upon software because if you have software that knows it has dual cores and can effectively use them, then yes, you can gain. You probably don't gain 2x, but you probably gain 60% or 70% over.
Does 1 gigahertz dual core mean there's 2 1 gigahertz chips or two 500 chips?
Two gigahertz cores in the single chip. Yeah. So there's 2 processing units, both running at 1 gigahertz.
Okay, gotcha. So that would be a lot faster if the software did it right. And there's also a gigabyte of RAM, which is significantly more than the iPad. But then again, they're saying that's true multitasking, all that kind of stuff, and that will get eaten away really quickly.
Well, and so it all comes down again to, as we started out talking about, is the OS. And I understand this QNX that they apparently purchased or whatever is, it has some good aspects about it. And so
let's jump in the QNX and the app development thing here. So this is the last part of the Blackpad stuff. Try to get out of this as quick as possible. I don't want this to be a 3-hour show. But I think apps will kill this platform out of the bat. It won't have a bunch of apps like the iPad did. Or this might be... this will be the test for apps. This could, test us to see, are apps what sell these devices? Is it what makes these things incredible? So this has rapid develop environment, evidently. It's got a reliable BlackBerry tablet OS powered by QNX technology. It supports POSIX OS, SMP, OpenGL, BlackBerry 6, WebKit, Adobe Flash, Java, and Adobe Mobile Air. So,
yeah. So let me break this down a little bit for you. Yeah. So, so this rapid development environment is, a little bit of marketing hype at this point because other than BlackBerry 6, which they probably have complete control over. The rest of it is, relying on other people's technology.
Does BlackBerry 6 support mean it runs BlackBerry 6 apps? Is that what that means?
That's what I would assume it means. I don't know 100%, but it sounds like it's a version of their OS, and it's providing some kind of capability to run those kind of apps. But let's kind of look at this. So POSIX OS, that's a standard Unix kind of OS, and so that's good from a standard support. SMP, symmetric multiprocessing. So what that's saying to me is that at the very core of the QNX technology is that they're trying to handle the sharing of the workload between the two cores on the processing. So that's good news. But you still need your apps to be well behaved above that to make that all work out really well. So OpenGL, that's great. I mean, that's Apple's technologies are built on OpenGL, so that's good stuff. BlackBerry 6 we talked about. WebKit,
Apple
for well, not Apple.
Well, I think it's kind of
source,
funny. Apple's WebKit, it's one open source thing it's ever really done is everywhere, including BlackBerry.
Yeah, and certainly that's good stuff as well.
Yeah.
Adobe Flash. So what they're trying to do there is obviously tap into all of the Flash applications that have been built. I don't. The downside of that I see is that there are a whole lot of Flash applications that are poorly made.
And it's click based. It's mouse based.
Yeah, and I mean I think that a fair number of them can go into the touch environment if they've thought this out well.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're going to have a lot of poorly behaved apps that people are going to try to run on this thing, and they're going to get a bad experience, which Apple didn't want to have happen, right?
Right.
Then you have Java. So again, you open it up. So from an enterprise perspective, this is a very good thing because enterprises can make their own apps in Java. That's an easy thing for them to find developers to do. I hope that they provide good APIs for Java developers, or whether they're just throwing it open for Java development and supporting a Java runtime. That's it will remain to be seen how well that works. And then Adobe Mobile Air, which is a very good thing, I think, for a mobile device these days. But what I'm seeing here is that it supports so many different things out of the box. There's no true unification that Apple kind of forced on people. So by the fact that not having all kinds of frameworks that were able to be supported initially, there was a lot of.
You're concerned the platform won't be unified in its experience for apps.
Yeah, the apps are going to be all across the board here, and we know that means a whole lot more on a mobile device than it does on a desktop.
Yeah,
and so that's one of the challenges that BlackBerry is going to face, is that by trying to get a lot of apps quickly by opening up to all these different development environments, they're going to get a lot of different kinds of apps and a lot of different ways of having a UI, and it's going to be much harder, I think, for them to
use.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and just to note, I believe Netflix uses Microsoft Silverlight, so Netflix would have to write a custom app without using Silverlight, which I think it uses Silverlight on the iPad to some degree in their app.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that they do use Silverlight, because that would have to be built
into the app, right?
Into the app or something. Whatever Netflix does, I'm sure that they'll be able to make it run on this.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
What I think that may be a savior of the BlackPad is a number of major applications for the iPad being ported over, essentially. And just being enough of them that have good interfaces, because they've developed that for the iPad, that people have good experiences on the BlackPad.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if the Hulu website runs on this BlackPad or PlayBook pad thing, because right now it'll detect if it's a mobile device and it won't run even if Flash is on it. That's what Android users have experienced. So I'm curious if it will think it's a desktop app or not.
But Tim, didn't they just tell us that this has a no compromise web experience?
They did. So I don't know. We'll see.
I guess they'll have enough time to figure that one out.
Yeah, because it's a Hulu thing. Because I think Hulu will detect if this is a black pad or not, even though it's running the full flash. So we'll see. I think it might be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
So that's the development environment. It's got all those things overlaid atop of async abstraction objects, alarms, audio system stuff, phone stuff in this block pad. Okay. Some other things, net, and then file systems. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in there. So it's kind of interesting they have phone in there. Anyways.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, works with the BlackBerry Enterprise server, works with 3G plans for your BlackBerry already, and shipping early 2011, as they said. And I did not get on their mailing list for this because it would have made me sign up for every BlackBerry product they would ever have. There was no way to get a notification for just this product alone. You had to get notifications for everything, which was very odd, I thought. So, anyway.
Well, and I think bottom line, if somebody's going to ask the question, is this a competitor to the iPad?
Yeah, that was going to ask you before we wrap this up.
I would say, in the same vein that the BlackBerry is a competitor to the iPhone.
Right.
I mean, there is a certain segment that will be very, very pleased with all the things that this has.
Would you, John, be someone that would eventually get one of these?
I could see potentially having some reason to do this. I don't see that reason right now in my life.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the iPad and what it does for me. I don't see a need for some of the things that this has that I can't do with the iPad right now. Mm-hmm. But the same is for an Android phone versus my iPhone. Yeah. Is that there are things I could do with either device that I can't do with the device I have now. But do I find a compelling reason to change? Not right now.
Okay, so you're not jumping ship anytime soon.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, good. And for those wondering, I will definitely not be getting a black pad anytime soon because I just hate the BlackBerry ecosystem. It's not something I'm interested in. So anyways, no pricing info. We'll find that out later. And with that, let's...
Well, one final note.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, one of the things that has continued to sell the BlackBerry over the iPhone is the real keyboard in a BlackBerry.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed that there's no mention of anything except an on-screen keyboard for this thing.
Oh, I doubt. Yeah.
So they might support Bluetooth since they have Bluetooth, but they don't make any mention of supporting Bluetooth keyboards.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if they had a slide-out hardware keyboard?
No, I don't think they will. The only mention they make is an on-screen keyboard.
Yeah.
And so it'll be kind of interesting for all the BlackBerry users that have kept their BlackBerry phone only because it had a real keyboard to now get a BlackPad and not have a real keyboard either.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think it'd just be hilarious to see mock-up videos of a slide-out BlackBerry keyboard on this 7-inch device. I mean, it could work. I don't know, but this might be BlackBerry's way of transitioning their users to touchscreen interfaces, which BlackBerry needs to do in order to move BlackBerry into the age of Android and iPhone. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
So this might be the way of nudging them along.
Yep.
So no pricing info. I think it'll be either, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm still wondering about pricing stuff. I'm wondering because the Samsung Tab I think was like $1,000. I saw it for, I don't know. So pricing is kind of weird right now. We'll find out more on that kind of stuff later. So picks of the week. Let's go there now. It's been a long show.
Sure. So my pick of the week is a little app called Plain Text, and Plain Text is it's a free app from the App Store, and it is just a killer application for dealing with plain text. So you can create text files, edit text files for whatever you might need, just text files. So it's Notepad plain text editor. So in the same vein of TextMate or BB Edit on the Macintosh, there's plain text, and it's free, and it's a great little app. It's made by the same folks that make Write Room.
Oh, I love Write Room.
That's yeah. It's interesting. Write Room, I think, is up for or overdue with some new versioning, because apparently there's been some bugs that have been lingering on in Write Room. But
does Write Room do Dropbox stuff?
I think it will in the next version.
After learning how to do it with this plain text app.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I know that the developer just finished this plain text and got that out the door, and so hopefully they'll be circling around to do Write Room updates. So, but plain text is free, and if you have any reason to deal with text files, even just a replacement for maybe the Notepad, if you want to have a little bit different interface with working with different documents, I'd say check it out. It's a good app.
Okay, very cool. Any other picks this week?
There were a couple that I was going to go to, but I haven't really given them enough time on the iPad yet to really say yes or no, so I'll hold off.
Okay. So I've got two this week. First one's Mac Journal. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's finally here. It's $5. I got a promo code, so just FYI, I did get a free copy of this application, and I'm thoroughly impressed with this. So a while ago, I did a journaling episode where I discussed all the different journaling options for the iPad. My Memoir was my favorite. Is that the app name? Was that the one that the EPUB export?
Yeah, I think it was My Memoir.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's in the vein of one of those types of apps. So the cool thing here is this is for the kind of person that likes to journal, but also likes to blog. So you can have multiple journals in this application. You can add a smart journal, which I'm testing it out now. Let me add this here. Basically a smart journal. You're able to choose a topic that you want to have it on. And all sorts of stuff. I think go through this more. I'm not going to do a full review now, but a lot of different options as far as that. You can publish to different blogs here. So you're able to publish to anything from WordPress to blogger.com, the LiveJournal, to Typepad, to even other. You can set the name of it, the type of it, as far as if it's a LiveJournal, meta, weblog, movable type, Atom or WordPress, a home URL, all the settings you need to do a custom blog there. And you're able to select different settings there. But the cool thing is you can actually export to a blog. You can also compose emails from within this application. So it'll just take what you have and send it off as an email, which is very helpful. You can also use whatever you're working on, whatever blog you're on, as a template for it. You can sync it up with your Mac running Leopard or Snow Leopard. If you have Mac Journal for your Mac, that's a good way to keep these devices in sync. So one quick thing I'd love to see Mac Journal add is the ability to do Dropbox sync with your Mac Journal Mac app. So I think that should be added sometime. But yeah, I'll do a full review later. That's just kind of a quick overview on it. Do you have any questions about Mac Journal, John? I know you're a fan of the Mac app at least.
Yeah, I mean the Mac app is really a great one for journaling, and I'm interested in how well this one works with WordPress and some of the other blogging applications, because it certainly provides a little bit better interface than the free WordPress app that's pretty bare bones. But I think it'd be a great thing. I certainly wish. This is from Mariner Software.
Yep.
And I'm waiting for Mariner to bring out a few of their other apps, an iPad version. I know StoryMill is one that I've used in the past. I think I've mentioned this National Novel Writing Month coming up in November, and I used StoryMill last year. Year before last.
Yeah.
And I wish it was available on the iPad this year, because I'm fully intending on using my iPad for most of my novel writing in November, and I'm looking at for good apps. And so if anybody has any suggestions, send them in. But I'm certainly looking for apps to use for story editing and writing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, send those in. iPadPossibilities@gmail.com, and then 209-542-iPad for feedback there. So, yeah, I'll do a full review later on, hopefully this week or next week. The next app is, I'm sorry to say, another Wii app. So, many people know I play Wii Rule and Wii Farm now. And so Wii Rule, you rule a kingdom. Wii Farm, you rule your own little farming town there. And Wii City, you rule a little city. So this is like a merging between Wii Farm and Wii Rule. So what carries over from Wii Farm? So with Wii Farm, you pet the animals every so often to increase their happiness level. With Wii City, you are studying business or art, and every so often, if you come back, you can click on it and improve how far along you've studied. And so that carries over from Wii Farm. It's got the same stuff from Wii Rule as far as crops and stuff in the terms of it does factories now. And you're able to basically, the cool thing, you're able to buy these really inexpensive colleges or culinary schools or whatever. And if you study enough in there, they turn into these restaurants that produce a lot more income that way. And it's a nice game. I'm slowly getting into it. It's another Wii game that, for whatever reason, even though they're pretty much the same with different goals and stuff, I like that. I like that they're very similar and all that. So it's Wii City. I'm Possibilities 10 on the game if you want to interact with me on it. Have you gotten into these Wii games very much, John?
Well, I am fairly much into Wii Rule. I never really got into Wii Farm, but I am in Wii City.
You are? Okay.
I am, and I just actually a little while ago requested some some merchandise from you or something.
I probably accepted. You are. What are you on the Wii system?
I'm Jakester 2009.
Oh yeah, there you are.
Yep.
I'm gonna visit your city right now. You're at level 8 here. Oh, good. You made good use of your little trees there. You got some potato chips to harvest. It looks like.
I do.
Well, very cool. Yeah. So Wii City, Possibilities 10, and then Jakester 2009. So.
Very cool.
Any other closing thoughts before we move on to the feedback and all that?
Nope. I think we covered enough tonight.
We did. And for those curious on the live stream, this will be a 2-part episode, I believe. I don't want to put out a 2-hour episode here. So this will be part 1 will be everything up to the black pad discussion, and this will be on part 2. So if you want to leave feedback, you can do that by calling in the 209-542-iPad and emailing into iPadPossibilities@gmail.com. To support this podcast, simply visit gadgetfreeway.com, and they've got everything from iPad pillows, iPad case bags, and they've got a Pico projector, so you can actually use your iPad as a home theater system with the just hook it up right to your iPad. All sorts of stuff there at gadgetfreeway.com. I'd like to thank them once again for sponsoring this podcast, and just show your support of iPad Possibilities by visiting gadgetfreeway.com tonight. And with that, this has been the iPad Possibilities podcast on tppn.tv. This is Tim and John. I'll talk to everyone again next time. Have a great iPad week.